Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Hello, hello, and welcome to the Love Pod. I'm Julia,
And my name is Nathaniel.
and we were just telling our guest here that it's a special episode because it's not every day that we're hosting together.
Yes.
So we're really excited about it here
Looks like
today.
sleeping.
Yes,
One of us may have to run and go get her if she does wake up.
but perhaps
Yeah,
not. Perhaps
let's
not.
hope not.
Anyways, today we are so lucky to be joined by a truly radiant being, Tina LeAnn, founder of The Sovereign Soul. And Tina's work sits at the intersection of science, spirit, and self-mastery, as I understand. She is an NLP master practitioner and trainer, human design and gene keys expert, which we're excited to dive into, and a transformational coach and host of her own podcast, The Sovereign Soul. Through her unique blend of energetic wisdom and practical tools, Tina helps people remember that they're not broken, they're just running on old codes, and that healing is a journey of returning to their wholeness, sorry. So we're so grateful to have you here, Tina. Welcome to the Love Pod.
Thank
Welcome,
you so
Tina.
much. Thank you. Thank you. This is amazing. You have such a good energy together.
Oh, thank you very much, Tina.
We
Really
appreciate that. Yeah, Jinx.
Don't jinx me, especially not online. What are you doing?
Before we dive in here and explore your work and the wisdom that you're going to share with our listeners today, I would love if you could just take us back a little bit. And for those just meeting you for the first time, including Nathaniel and I, who is Tina LeAnn and what led you onto this path of transformation and self-sovereignty?
Oh gosh, it's been since I was born,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like for all of us, right? I grew up kind of in a uh how do I say this nicely? Sort of a toxic, inconsistent environment, I'll say that. And which led me into using coping mechanisms. I understand now they were coping mechanisms, didn't understand that then, but
Mhm.
which trained me in some coping mechanisms to be quiet and to be invisible and to be the people pleaser, the one who kept everything, tried to keep everything calm in the household, if you will. And throughout the years, after using those coping mechanisms repeatedly and repeatedly, as you know, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then at
Oh,
some
yeah.
point in adulthood, I realized that this is not helping me anymore. Being invisible is not helping me.
Mhm.
Suppressing my voice is not helping me. Um, not asking for what I need is not helping me. Not receiving is not helping me. None of this stuff is helping me anymore. And so back back in the day when I had this realization, we didn't have the internet yet. And so I went to the library and I got books and read magazines on mostly it started with psychology. And then one thing led to another. And I just kind of like, I just stayed the course in curiosity. I've always
Mhm.
been a curious person. And so curiosity has just kind of led the way for me through this whole thing. And then probably about 10 years ago, I had some health issues. I was getting migraines about 5 times a week.
Mm.
Um, it didn't start like that,
I
but it
know that
just,
feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very debilitating,
Yeah.
right? And so I went to my doctors and specialists and had MRIs and CAT scans and all of those things, and they couldn't find the root cause of it. And so they ended up just writing a prescription saying, here, take this when you feel one coming on. And that was not enough for me. I didn't want to live my life like that.
Mhm.
And so I went home and went to Google and started typing in what is the root cause of migraines? And one thing led to another. And that just opened my whole world to energetics and quantum mechanics and epigenetics and all of that. And in that space, I came across human design and gene keys, and then later on came across NLP. So that's kind of the very short version of how all of that unfolded.
Wow. I think
Yeah.
Nathaniel can relate to a lot of what you shared.
Yeah, for sure. But I really appreciate how you just brought it back to curiosity. I
Hmm.
think that
Mm.
a big part of what we've recognized, especially like we see our daughter as our greatest teacher, and I've been really contemplating children as our true leaders. I was just listening to a talk last night while I was doing some cleaning up and stuff, and it was Robin Sharma, and he was talking about how like children are our greatest leaders because they demonstrate emotional authenticity, they have courage and their curiosity, they're like always learning. And I've been thinking about that a lot, how really, they really do teach us. So I love how you brought it down to curiosity. I mean, that is so fundamental to our growth and to our development into whatever profession you're doing, to stay on the edge of growth, and to be able to
Mm,
really contribute, right? Because it's not just about our own growth. It's like staying interested in the people that we're having conversations with and staying curious
yeah.
about others, and it's about relationships, right? So like relationship with life and our relationship with one another. So
And with ourselves.
yeah.
What I love too is that like it wasn't good enough for you to just take a pill to shove down the symptom. It's so funny because in a podcast I was doing an hour ago, we were talking about symptoms versus the root cause. And it's like
Mm,
if something's coming up, it's for a reason,
it
right?
is.
And if we just address the symptom, it's not really going to heal us at a root cause, at a root level. And so the fact that you wanted to go beyond and your curiosity took you there was really interesting because then you led into your own self-research and you came across, your own self-healing and you took initiative and responsibility for your life. So that's really beautiful that you did that.
Yeah, that's right. That's the main curiosity and radical self-responsibility, right? We are in charge of every choice we make every day, all day, the micro choices and the macro, right? And to your point, to add to what you said, Nathaniel, which was so beautiful about the children, um, with the curiosity and how they just emit emotion and all of that, they also use play. They learn
Yeah.
through play,
Yeah.
right? And as adults, we forget to do that.
Mhm.
And joy is where we really find ourselves, and we is really where we are ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
we forget about that as adults. And so I love what you said about your child will get you to play and will get
Yeah.
you to remember to play, right? It's so
So
beautiful.
important. So
Yeah.
important. Actually, this has been probably my lifelong contemplation, Tina. And you noticed Julie had to run up there because our little
Yeah.
daughter
Yeah.
just woke up. I mean, she just went down, so she's had troubles with sleeping. But
Mm,
it's I remember being a little boy, and it's funny you say. I think old souls who come here intentionally to help lift the consciousness, especially during these really remarkable and interesting times that we live in, with so much acceleration and rising of consciousness. I remember looking at the grown-ups or whatever the adults around me, and I was very enamored with all the miracles of life, whether it was like an insect I was,
mm,
studying, or just reflections of light in water, looking at cloud formations, looking at water striders. Like to me, like everything was just this series of miracles and was awesome, like literally. And I realized that, the adults had something different, like they'd lost that connection. They weren't aware, and I was very aware of this. And it's funny you say the forgetting. I think this contemplation, I feel, has led me on my journey a lot, because for some reason I never really lost that piece. I mean, I've definitely had my challenges that have, I've dealt with all kinds of things that have brought my consciousness through some like I've gone through depression, especially working in environments that were really toxic, and facing bullying, like professionally, and these things, for really being my own authentic self, and because I really do show up to give. And I feel in this Western culture sometimes that can be misconstrued as a weakness. It's like a giver
yeah.
can be taken advantage of. Kind
Sure.
people are
Yes.
often that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
really had to learn boundaries and like develop that for myself. But it's funny. I feel like I've wondered about the root cause of the forgetting, and I really think a lot of it is our indoctrination, the beliefs that
Mhm.
we're given, and especially through the systems that we're put through to, to force compliance and obedience. And then, and it's funny, that word, I think about that word, and I love to hear your perspective on this, especially from like NLP and reprogramming, all this understanding, because like our language is important, right?
Oh, for
And
sure.
forgetting to me is that it's contrasted with forgiving, that getting
Hmm.
and giving. One of our a very
Hmm.
famous Canadian musician who passed away a few years, one of my favorites was Gord Downie from the Tragically Hip. And he had this line. He was a poet, if anything, and he had this line in a song with more than one meaning. And he says, "If is life just forgetting?" And I think about it all the time. It's like we focus on getting and accumulating, and I think that weighs our
And we forget.
and we forget. right? We forget who we are. And coming into the density of the physical body, it is a challenge. It's not, we're not in our most expansive self. So there is a remembrance process that has to happen. So how do you like work with people in that? Because I mean, you probably, it sounds like you come at it from so many different angles to really understand who the person is in terms of their human design. Like I'm a 5-2 manifesting generator.
Mm,
So I know a little bit more now, like, okay, I have to wait to respond and not always push, and
yeah,
these things. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
how do you use all these tools that you've gathered through curiosity to really help people?
Oh my gosh, there's so much I want to say to everything you just said. Yeah, I love that forgetting and forgetting because
Mm.
with the I will never forget that. So thank you for that. That's beautiful. Um, where do I want to start here? So first of all, the forgetting, what I've really been diving into lately is the unconscious and the conscious.
Mm.
And so this forgetting, as you said, it happens through education and training and messaging in the media and society, and it comes from people around us and
Mm.
everywhere, right? And
Yep.
shifting and being like molded into this version that we think we should be, right?
Mm.
Based on whatever story we're running, any narrative that we're running, we're using language, right?
Yep.
To run this narrative. We use language to create that life, and we're using the narrative to keep us there, right?
Yep.
And so from a unconscious perspective, so our unconscious is bringing in like 2 billion bits of information per second.
It's
And then
amazing.
it's going, right? And then it's being filtered, deleted, distorted, and generalized through our brains, through our beliefs and values
Mm.
and past experiences down to 126 bits
Mm.
are coming into our conscious awareness. So
Wow.
if you think from birth, before birth, in utero, you're picking up 2 billion bits of information per second. The unconscious is picking all of this up. Imagine how much information is in your body,
Wow. Wow.
right? That we don't have access to. It's all in there. Everything is in there. And then there's this thing called the reverse effect where so you're bringing in all this information. You have 126 bits that are conscious based on your values, beliefs, past experiences. So you're choosing to access what you understand in the moment, right?
Mm.
Which may not you're choosing to understand what's in the moment. So there's this other thing and then you create a strategy out of that, which is your habit and your pattern, your strategies that you use. We use strategies all day, every day for everything.
Mm.
Brushing our teeth, we have a strategy for love. We have a strategy for everything, right? And the unconscious it's called the reverse effect. It creates the opposite strategy. So the opposite strategy is available in you. Everything is literally available in
Mm.
you. We
Mm.
just have to remember. Our job is to remember. We forget through all the things that you said, and then you add on social media and distraction and doom scrolling and streaming, and
Mm.
all of these things are available. We can get food delivered to our door. We can get everything delivered. We have
Yep.
access to everything now, and everybody, text messages, and we've got, WhatsApp and, email and things coming at us from all directions to pull us away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole game is curiosity, play, find your joy, and remember. Just
Mm.
keep unleashing more of who you are to remember who you are because it's all in there. It's all available to you. And so the way that I work with people is I use human design. Human design is a beautiful tool, and I don't use it as like these are labels to put yourself in another box. We don't want to
Mm.
do that. And so I use human design. It's a beautiful tool and it's a blueprint of you and your highest self.
Mm.
And so let's look at you and your higher self. Let's just open up to who and what you could become.
Mm.
If you can think it, you can become it, right? That's what they say. And so what I love about the human design is that sometimes when I'm meeting with someone and they're sitting across from me and it can see their full potential, right? I can hear it, I can feel it in their energy and I can see it, but they don't believe it yet.
Mm.
And so with the human design, we can point this stuff out like these are your gifts. The gifts
Yeah.
are in the gates and these are your gifts. And this is you. And then because it's in their design and they don't really understand, but they understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Their shoulders drop and they're just kind of like, oh, it is me.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is me. And it's so validating because we have this knowing, we know everything, right? We know, but we may not believe it, or we may not know how to step into that.
Yeah.
And so right there, that gives them validation.
Yeah.
And now we work with giving them permission. Even though
Mm,
they don't need permission, sometimes they need permission.
mm,
And then that's where we go with Gene Keys then Gene Keys is kind of like this compassionate awareness where it's more forward
yeah.
future focused wording.
Mm,
It's a softer look at the gates. The
mm,
gene keys they kind of they align with the human design gates, and so we look deeper into, we utilize the gene keys languaging for future focusing,
okay.
and then with NLP, the neuro linguistic programming, we can use different techniques to make shifts very quickly. And also with all three of those, it creates a new narrative, new language that they have now that they can take and create a new story for themselves.
Mm,
And then they can move towards their desire, whatever their goal is for them. They have the language now within them to take different choices, to create different strategies, and take different or make different choices throughout the day, whether they're little teeny choices or big choices. Is this going to get me towards my future self or not? Yes or no? And then do you have the courage to step into the one that's going to take you to your future self? Yes, you do. Tap into that and move in that direction. So that's how I work with
that's
my clients.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, it's like you have a very clear picture and ability to articulate that journey with your clients. That's really wonderful. And I love the synergies you see and how you have found those distinctions of how these different systems work. Because I feel like for a lot of folks that kind of enter into the world of self-discovery and often it's kind of blanketed in self-development, which I mean I kind of have some qualms with that kind of that umbrella term because I really believe that a lot of my journey, anyways, I can speak for myself, is about going home. It's about returning to the soulful self,
Yes.
and it's really about transcending the self, and returning, like you talked about, subconscious and conscious. I really believe that there's a super consciousness
Yep.
available to us that we draw our intelligence and our love from. And when
Yes.
we're all in harmony with that, well, that's to me is heaven on Mother Earth. And that's a big part of why we created our education association to build those bridges between like wonderful educators like yourself and parents and entrepreneurs and artists, really to be around the concept of the child. Like our daughter's name means light. And when like we had a
Mm.
home birth and
Oh,
I caught
beautiful.
her with my hands, and the first thing she did, LeAnn, was look Tina, pardon me, was look right in my eyes and with
Aw.
such presence. And that was because we there was no pharmaceuticals involved. It was totally natural. Julia did so much preparation, meditation, visualization. She created a beautiful like affirmation wall of all of her, and with all cut out beautiful pictures and stuff. And 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 then the next moment she just looked right at Julia. She knew where she was in the room. No
Sure.
confusion at all, right? Very present. And I'm like, this is the miracle. Like
That's it.
this is the miracle of life that we all come from. It wasn't just
Yeah.
me about my daughter. It was like, this is where we're all from. This is like, because I'd been talking for years about how we are like literally miracles walking around, born from active love and a seed and an egg, walking around trillions of cells, like totally normalizing this amazing, experience. And so I really see how you've taken these wonderful tools. I think they're all gifts, and I think they all come from that higher inspired place. I came to human design later because I listened to the founder, I forget his name, Ra.
Ruhu.
Yeah, and I didn't really resonate with him. Like I just didn't. It wasn't for me because I know my path is the Christ way. I mean, my journey has been that um, uh, Christ appeared to me when I was in my early 20s and led me to study Indigenous wellness, working in Indigenous communities, and
Mm.
for me it was curiosity that led, like, why do you appear to me? I'm not religious. I really was trying to understand the nature of reality through the lens of science, and I was looking at some of these tools and psychology, and I went to university for psychology and anthropology, but I ended up dropping out because I was looking for enlightenment and I found this big business and a party place, and I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't my people. People
No.
don't. So I went on this big quest of curiosity, like what does all this mean and why? And then when he appeared to me, it was like, oh, there is like another level of awareness that I am not seeing with my senses, my regular
Yeah.
senses. And then
Yeah.
and that's what led me to the Christ letters. And in that, he talks about true spiritual enlightenment, and why I'm bringing this up is I think so many of these tools are pointing us in that way to
They
return to our
are.
authenticity, to be
Yep.
in harmony with who we really are, so that we can be that expression. And that's kind of why where I want to like that bring that circle back, because you talked about like unleashing and using that language versus all the consumption that we have. And I really think that's kind of the big choice to make in this time is like, are we going to express and create, or are we going to consume? And because there's so much available. I mean, you can spend a whole lifetime just on one streaming platform, and there's like how many of them now, like
Unless.
yeah. So I love that. And can you elaborate more on like what that looks like for someone who's stepping into this, and the transformations that you see in people like through this beautiful journey that you outlined?
Yeah, my goodness, there's a lot. Yeah. I love how you tie everything together and bring everything around. Yeah. And it's a journey, right? And it isn't like I mean, that's what we're here for. That's what we signed up for, right? And yeah, I totally agree with you about the super conscious. We're really tapping into some beautiful stuff there. And so the way, yeah, I'm not sure where I want to go here. So we throughout our lives, we are born whole, just as you said. That was so beautiful how you said that with your daughter, the
Mm,
birth of your daughter. It is so beautiful what you guys created to bring her into the world. And think about how much love was there to bring her into this world.
mm,
And each one of us, right, we're brought in with so much love and we're whole, right? We are whole beings in that moment. And if we look at the human design, take it or leave it, in the human design world, they believe that the design crystal is being created 3 months prior to conception.
mm.
And so if you think about that, we really are, each one of us is on purpose a piece of the puzzle, right? If
Yeah.
you believe that or not, it's up, up to your listeners. And we really are here on purpose for a purpose,
Mhm.
and then to be brought into the world in so much love, right? And then from that moment on, that's where the fractaling begins, right? Like you said, with pharmaceuticals and all the things that we talked about earlier, right? Just the messaging coming in from all around us, and we start to get a little bit fractaled. And so this healing journey, I don't even know if I want to call it healing now. This journey that we're on, it's a life journey.
Yeah.
It's all of everything, right?
Mm.
And so this journey that we're on is about bringing the parts of us, the fractal parts of us, back to the whole.
Yeah.
And then in that, you become more light. We are light beings, right? We're energetic. It's physics, it's biology, it's
Yeah.
science, right?
Yeah.
And also we're spiritual. We're both. We're all of it. We're all of everything. And so we're bringing the parts back to the whole. And then in that, you just begin to feel so much peace in your
Mm.
body and groundedness and knowing this is me, and I own it. Not I'm going to own it. It's like I own it. This is me. I'm
Yeah.
strong in who I am. You lead with love
Mhm.
and also embodied conviction.
Mhm.
Like you're unshakable,
Yeah.
unstoppable and unshakable.
Mhm.
And so that's been the biggest transformation for me. Was 30 years ago, I just had this anxiety running in the background constantly, right? Like
Mm.
waiting for the next shoe to drop, and just on edge all the time, and this fight or flight kind of situation happening, and just very acute and aware, like a hunter, of everything going on around me, right?
Mhm.
And then moving from this place of people pleasing and shoulds, and showing up even when I was exhausted, to something that I really didn't need to be at,
Mm. Mm.
and then moving into the space of like, this is my honoring yes and my honoring no.
Mm.
I'm going to honor myself and everybody else with my yeses and my nos. And I'm going to be really strong in where I'm going and what I'm doing. And come with me because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're all welcome to come with me. This is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Come with me or not, and take what you want and leave the rest.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been like what it feels like in my body with this. And then now I'm just like, and I've been playing with this thing with identity for many years, and now I'm playing with like loosening the identity with the human body and into a light body. What does that feel like? And where will
Mm,
that take me?
mm,
And then so to answer your question, a lot of things that I see with my clients is I see marriages, couples coming back together when they understand themselves more
yeah,
and then they understand each other at a deeper level. Like this person isn't doing this thing on purpose to piss you off.
yeah,
It's a coping mechanism. And the reaction that you're having to it isn't um isn't like a isn't a natural loving, isn't coming from natural love. It's coming from maybe ego or past trauma or something like
mm,
that. And
mm,
so if we can loosen the grip on this is just who she is or he is, or this is just who he is or she, we can
yeah,
loosen the grip on,
yeah,
oh, now I see you as an individual, as
mhm,
unique as a thumbprint, right? No thumbprint is the same. Not there's not a human on earth that's exactly a clone of us, right? And so what I see with human design is it brings people into this space of like deep, deep, deep compassion for others
mm,
and understanding that, oh, if I'm all of this and you're all of that, and then you have these past experiences and you're looking at things completely different than the way I'm looking
mm,
at them,
yeah,
and it opens up this really, really deep, compassionate place. Like I was teaching a workshop last year. I was teaching a workshop with 10, I think there were 10 people in the group, and it was a 5-day workshop. And I think it was like day 5, this older woman, very wise, older matriarch, she sat back and she was just like, I have never had this much compassion for humans as I do right now.
mm,
She said, I never really thought about how different each one of us is.
mm,
And
mm,
then, and all the experiences and like, we're here on this podcast in this, having this one experience, but you're having an experience completely different than my experience that I'm
yeah,
having based
yeah,
on my 126 bits, right? And so when we can open up to that understanding, there's some big shifts that happen in us for us, and
mm.
also it just ripples out to everybody else.
Yeah, so much of what you said, I like the picture I was seeing, you were talking about the puzzle pieces coming together. I saw that illustration when you were talking about the couples and everything as well, and that softening. It's really an alignment, right? It's allowing love to really enter and to start putting these puzzles and letting go of the egoic grips that we can have through
Yeah,
these coping mechanisms, as you say, right?
yeah,
It's like
and
we
the
have a little
expect.
girl who's joined us.
Oh,
Just so I'm just gonna let her.
yay, I get to
Okay.
meet her. How
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, and we can release a lot of expectations, right? We can place expectations on ourselves and on others, and the expectations that someone isn't gonna will never live up to,
Mm,
and
mhm.
then also it opens us up to when we understand ourselves more, and like I was saying before, we change the narrative in building our future and creating the life that we want to live, right? But we also are able to ask for what we want and
Yeah.
need.
So
We can
important.
say, and then we can say, what this isn't an alignment or it is, and
Mm,
this isn't a fit or it is. And so you don't, there's it, and when you can ask for what you need and
mm.
you can communicate, when you have words to communicate more fluidly in relationship, it just creates a beautiful synergy, right? When there's real talk, like real
Yeah.
words,
Yeah.
real heart to heart, right?
So that's so important, like that connection piece. I think there's such a yearning for that for our species right now. So many
Yeah.
people. And it's funny you mentioned like the social media. I want to tell you, maybe not in this now moment, but in this conversation, I'll tell you about something I discovered recently online, and I've been sharing with people because I feel like it's the first authentic online human engagement platform I've ever experienced, and I love it so much. But I wanted to, before I kind of share about that, I'm getting kicked for my daughter here.
Oh, she is
Or
adorable.
she's such a light. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, my girl. Oh, the foundation, the pillars that we recognize for our association are connection, community, and co-creation in that order, right? Because like you're talking about, first we need to really know ourselves, like Hippocrates,
Yeah.
like the archway is there for a reason. Like we have to know who we are and have those ability to be able to set those boundaries of yes and no and self-honoring. And that is a journey, that inward journey that we have to take. And then only when we're really connected can I believe that we can really show up in community, where we can communicate our unity. But if we have no sense of our connection to that unique oneness that we are, how can we really be? And like in our journeys that we went out west and looking with this question, I was our curiosity, like what is conscious community and how can
Mm,
we contribute to to helping build bridges between conscious communities, and like
mm,
what is our role in that? And what we did encounter are there are a number of people who are looking for community very much, and there's a lot of talk of community, but there's a lot of folks who haven't done this work that you're describing and done this integration piece because they're looking to be taken care of a community by a community.
yeah.
And it's a big difference when you have a community of members who are all of the of the mindset of contribution. Like JFK said, it's not what your a community can do for you, it's what can you do for your community. And when we're all
Yeah.
kind of vibing that way, then we're like bees, right? We're all
Yes.
working, we're all adding to the hive, and we're bringing our best selves, and we're not just there for us, right? Because we've already
Right.
done that connection piece. So yeah, I re
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it feels like, and now, in this space, you attract who you are, right? And so I'm attracting the most amazing friendships into my life. I never even thought that I'm actually getting a little emotional about it. Never even imagined having the types of friendships that I have right now. And it's so beautiful because we are sovereign beings and autonomous and also so connected. Like I'm taking care of myself. My friend is over here taking care of herself and her energy and take all the things that she needs to do. And I'm doing all the things I need to do. And also we're working together to
Mhm.
create this, whatever it is, to create this thing. And it's so beautiful because instead of, when you're wanting to be taken care of, there's this sense of waiting. You're always waiting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then if you're the person who feels like you're taking care of this person, it feels kind of like an anchor, right?
Mhm.
Like you're pulling this anchor along. And when you have two sovereign beings or more, 10, 15, 20, whatever size the community is, and everyone's sovereign, and holding their own and holding for the all, it's so expansive.
Yeah,
And you can do anything, right? It
absolutely.
feels limitless because
Oh yeah.
this person's going to have a gift that I don't have. And if you get like 20, 30, 50 people together, however many, and each person has their gift that is a piece of the puzzle, right? I don't have this, but this person has this. So you put us together and here we go, right? And then you
Yes.
multiply that by it's just beautiful. The sky's
Well,
the limit.
I'm very excited to tell you this, and maybe Julie has some things she'd like to share too. Do you want to go first?
No, I'm getting excited about what you're speaking about because it just reminds me how like each of us came here with a unique soul purpose. And the more that we can shine that through, the more we're going to inspire others to do the same with themselves and within their own lives. And it kind of ripples out. So, you can't really you can show someone how to live their life, but you can't do the work for them. So what
Right.
you can do is you can embody your most authentic self and your soul purpose. And then that will hopefully inspire others to do the same. So yeah, I missed a little bit in the middle there, but I kind of am back on track, and I think it's really cool what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that like I'm actually really excited by what you said too. It reminds me actually of the my most favorite part of the Christ letters. And the Christ letters are super deep. And they're very pragmatic. Like they talk about how to deal with conflicts in relationships. They talk about the relationships between men and women. He talks a lot about sexuality and why it's how important it is to be in a state of unconditional love, especially when conceiving a child, but even all the time because it lowers our consciousness if we're just doing things out of selfishness, right? And but one of my favorite parts is he talks about once we've truly transcended the selfish ego drive and coming back into harmony with exactly what you're saying, he says that is when life really
Really.
begins.
Yes.
And it's like
Yes.
and he describes the realm of Christ consciousness as innumerable beings that are all operating, they're all unique individuations of consciousness with uniquely beautiful gifts. and their ability to imagine and to create is at such a transcendent level we can't even imagine as humans. So I like to see us
Yeah.
as caterpillars, and we're preparing by doing all this forging. So that's the one way, like as we're ascending in consciousness, we're doing that. I also like to see us, like my spirit name is Ondakin, and Aki means land in Anishinaabe Moen. And
Hmm.
so the way I see the land and myself as my body is the land. My name means keeper of the land, essentially.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
So it's a term of stewardship, right? And so it's
Mm.
like and I feel like it carries me and my purpose to remind us that we are all interconnected with this land and to one another. That's been my
Mhm.
like deepest
Mhm.
contemplation of my life, is like how everything's interconnected. And there's so
Yeah.
many ways that it is. Like one way is space. Space touches everything all the time. But what is
Yeah.
space? Science has been trying to understand this forever. But Christ says in the science will never be able to penetrate space, because it is the mutual restraint of the two impulses of divine consciousness, being the father and the mother, and those two twin impulses that are drawn from the universal, they form the eternal spiral that is the equilibrium. So it's
Mm.
literally the foundation of reality. I mean, if you think about it from a thought experiment, we couldn't move without having space to operate. But
Right.
it's so everywhere that we don't even notice it. It's like
Right.
it's nothing. But it is like what you said. It
But
like
it's everything.
back to that visual of like the puzzle pieces as we find one another and we develop that deep compassion and allow and soften the edges and allow that love that is in the space all around and within us to really be the guide and to lead from that. Then
Mm.
it's like the games, I think, get so much more interesting because there's
Ah,
no
beautiful.
clashing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. This authenticity is the highest frequency. I believe it's higher than love. And so when you've got authenticity and love multiplied by the humans that you're next to, I mean, magic. It's magical.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah,
That's what life is meant to be. I feel like
yeah,
that's what our species is designed to be on Earth. Yeah.
yeah. Yes, I agree. I agree.
Did you guys dive into the gene keys yet, or NLP?
Yeah, we little bit. Maybe for our listeners who don't know about these things, can you
Oh
talk
yeah,
more about maybe like what the human design is? Maybe I think there's what is there 5 types? Can you
yeah, there,
give us a general picture of
sure.
this?
Yeah, so the human design is it's a Ra Uru Hu, as you know, you brought forward. He's the man who channeled the system, and it's a combination of astrology, the I Ching, the Hindu chakra system, and the Kabbalah and quantum mechanics. And you use your birth date, time, and location, and you put it into a system that shows you a body graph or your human design chart. People use those names simultaneously, and it shows you. So there's centers, channels, and gates. So there's 9 centers that follow along kind of with the Hindu chakra system. So we mainly talk about 7 chakras, but as you know, there's more chakras than that. But
Yeah.
mainly talk about the 7. So in human design, they believe that in the late 1700s, the heart was split into 2, which is the G center and the will center. And the solar plexus was split into the emotional solar plexus and the spleen.
Oh,
And so that's
interesting.
why there's 9 centers and,
Okay.
with the 7 Hindu chakra systems, and the 36 channels follow along with the Kabbalah, and the 64 gates follow along with the I Ching. And then with the gene keys, so Richard Rudd is the man who designed the gene keys. He worked with Ra Uru Hu back in the day. I don't know the details on that. I don't know for how long or what that relationship consisted of, but they worked together for some time, and then Richard went off on his own to create the gene keys. And so Ra he's like you said, with the resonance, he's very black and white, and like
Hmm.
this is who you are now. And then there are several people out there who have created the forward thinking, the future, giving human design future thinking words.
Okay.
And Richard Rudd was one of them when he implemented or started the gene keys. And so there's a lot, when you look at the two, when you read the two, if you read about a human design gate and then you read about a gene key, you can feel the spirituality and there's more compassion, and it's a softer
Hmm.
edge of the
Hmm.
human design. So that's why I like to compare, like to bring both of those sides in. And so as you said, there are 4 types, and then one of the types is a subtype. And so there's
Okay.
manifester, generator, and then the manifesting generator is actually a subtype, a combo of the
Okay.
two. And then
Okay.
there's a reflector and a projector. And so basically that's your energetic blueprint. It's how how you energetically move through the world. So for a mani-gen like you are, mani-gens have a lot of energy and also so they're a combination of the manifestor and the generator. So the generator has consistent energy. You can recreate your energy. You have a
Mhm.
defined sacral and you have your own regenerative energy. And so you can get up in the morning and work all day, go to sleep, get up in the morning, work all day. And then a manifester works in like creative surges. I'm a manifester. And so we
Okay.
have a creative surge and we go and we're focused and we build the thing and then we come down and we need to rest.
Mm.
And so those time frames are different for whatever the creative surge is and the rest period is. So the mani-gen has that generator energy, the go, 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 and the manifestor or surge. So you've
Okay.
got,
I can
yeah,
relate to
which
that.
is
Yeah.
really beautiful. Yeah. And then the other thing with the manifestor, with the mani-gen, you guys can also multitask, like your master's at multitasking. And you
That
can
explains a lot. Yeah.
figure out shortcuts for everything.
Yeah, I'm very good at like solving real world problems, like usually for others. Like
Yeah,
I see solutions that, because I really don't believe in boxes, right? So like,
yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I think my passion, I describe it as my passion, comes across like I think that's a lot for some people because I just, I'm so passionate. I have that energy and like. I've worked a lot like in events and stuff, and I would like plan all the events, make them happen, cook the food, serve the people, and do all this stuff, and
yeah,
so I know exactly, yeah, what that is.
yeah,
I'm curious
yeah.
to know. I don't think, do we look at, Julia doesn't know her chart.
That.
I mean, it's funny, synchronistically, I was just listening to Richard Rudd yesterday because he has
Mhm.
the gates I think it's every week.
Every week,
Every
yeah,
week, and gate 44 is in my chart. He was just talking about synarchy and how being a lot of, when we allow the super consciousness to self-organize. So, anyways, yeah, I feel like I know exactly what you said. Like he's a bard, he's a poet, and it really is
yeah, it's beautiful.
it's a softer kind of inspiring take. And all of this, you talked about this in the beginning of our conversation, Tina. Like it's about storytelling, like we tell ourselves a narrative, but we are involved in a larger story, the journey, as you said, of our lives. And
Yeah,
we have a little girl here who's full of energy. She
yeah,
might be a manifesting
a
generator.
manifesting generator
We
too.
haven't done her chart yet. She's always on the go and she's very curious.
Well, she's very much a people's person too, so
Totally.
she loves
Oh,
always playing with one of us or being around people. She's very sweet and affectionate.
she's adorable.
She really is.
I have a question for you, Tina.
Yeah.
So you talk about, living as your future self now, and so many teachers talk about that too. Like Joe Dispenza as well. He says to get into that feeling before you manifest it, right? Like as if as if it's already here now, because in reality it is, and we just need to shift our vibrational frequency in order to align with it and actually witness it in the physical. But how can someone begin tuning into that frequency, especially when their current reality, still reflects their old stories and their old patterns that they're carrying?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that is something that I have kind of pondered on and worked with in my own journey because I was in a space with my migraines and depression and all the things that I was experiencing during that time frame. I was in the place where I couldn't get to that feeling and I couldn't even imagine, I was in such a space where I just felt like took me everything I had just to get up in the morning and go to, at that time I was a photographer, go to my photo shoots and, and I didn't like, how am I supposed to feel this when I've never felt it, And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, and so that's a really good question. So there are a couple things for your listeners. What I did in that space is I let myself be where I was. And then I kept visioning, like I kept the vision close, right? I would create, now we can envision as, as we're limited with our humanness, right? So the vision that I created, I let it go as big as I could in that moment. It was bigger than where I was. And so I let it go as big as I could with what I had at that time. And then I would let the vision pop in every once in a while and I would sit with it for a few minutes. And then I would ask myself some questions like, what would it feel like? Okay, so I don't know what it, like they say, just feel the feelings and put yourself in that place. But if you can't, you can ask yourself, what would it feel like? What would it actually feel like? And if you can surrender and let go and let yourself go for just a second, you will feel it. You can ask God, you can ask the universe, if I want to move into this space, but I don't know what it feels like. Can you let me feel this for a second or 10 seconds? I want to feel this feeling for 10 seconds. And you will. You'll feel it. You'll feel a little tingly. You'll feel a little something in your body. That's opening it up. And then keep doing that as you remember, because we all forget, right? Life gets busy. We make a plan like, I'm going to do this every day for 10 minutes, and then we forget. So when you remember, just sit with that again, sit with that vision, and then what would this feel like? What could this feel like? Ask that question, then you can ask God, let me feel this for 10 seconds or whatever it is. And you'll keep feeling that sensation, and it'll keep getting more and more and more. And then the vision might actually start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The other thing that you can do is to just sit down with a piece of paper or magazines if you want. Some people like to create vision boards. I like to just write things out, but write out what's my biggest vision that I have for my life, and write it down, and then say, okay, what's a bigger vision than that? And write it down. What's a bigger vision than that? And write it down. And you can step yourself into it. And then another thing that's very helpful is thank goodness for the internet in this respect and social media. There are a lot of people who are showing these big lives that they're living, right? So find someone who's living the life that you're living and use that as a model. Just tap into their energy every once in a while. When you remember, just kind of tap into their energy. If somebody else is doing it, then you can do it too. And then sometimes, depending where you are, it can be a longer journey. It was a longer journey for me. And to get to this space of feeling this grounded and at home with myself and all of that. But if you can allow yourself the space, it's not going to happen overnight, but and then be playful with it. The other thing that Nathaniel and I we talked about playing, like your daughter's reminding you guys how to play, right? And to just play with it and have fun with it. This isn't like I got to do this thing every day, or this isn't going to happen, no, just play with it. Like, what could my life look like? Where could, and then, so that's a good place to start, and just to build on that and step by step.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think you hit it spot on with the playful piece, because life is meant to be fun. It's meant to be
Yeah.
enjoyed, And when we're too serious all the time, I think we need to get a little bit out of here and more into here. And,
Yes.
it's nice to like live from that place. And also, like, if someone were to ask me as well, like, how to envision something that I've never had or experienced before in my life, then I would also remind them, when you were a child, you didn't have any problems with visualization and imagination. So if we could just take a moment and step back into that childlike state of wonder, then
Yes.
beautiful things can come from that place, right? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like you mentioned, that surrender piece, kind of stepping out of our own way, letting go of the control or the expectations of how we think it should look like. Because a lot of the times it always turns out better than we expect anyways,
Oh,
right?
so much.
There's a
Yes.
mastermind behind all of life. So who are we to imagine or to think like what's the best to come out of it? Like, we can have our hopes and our dreams and our visions, but then expect even better. And I love how you
Yeah.
spoke about, even visualize bigger and bigger and bigger. It kind of reminds me of Esther Hicks and the Law of Attraction. We were doing some of her work at this one point in our life, and there was this game that she suggested. It was a game because it was meant to be fun, but it was like a
Yep.
practice that she had been teaching in order to cultivate more abundance in your life. And it was writing yourself a check every single day, like a fake check to
Yep.
yourself, and then doubling it every single day.
Ooh,
And
I like that.
it's so cool. And Nathaniel and I did this, and it made me realize, like, I'm wanting all this money and abundance in my life, but like, in reality, I have no idea what I would do if I had all of that. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting because it got you thinking like in realistic terms, like, okay, and then you have to spend it. That's the other part of it. You're not just
Ah,
writing yourself a check. You need to decide how you're going to spend that money every single day. And after like 5 checks, I'm like, oh my God, I've already like spent so much money. It really got us thinking even bigger, like what could I do with this money? Like even after you buy the things, all the things that you want for yourself, like what's after that, right?
yeah.
Because it's like there's so much abundance in this world. And I think having a vision of like what you want to do with it, like your why is so important. And
Oh,
growing up
it's
in a society where like dreams are kind of beaten out of children and the education systems that we have, it's like we kind of are conditioned to the belief that we can't really have what we want, or we kind of lose like clarity in what we want or the dreams that we had when we were younger and when we were children. And so that higher vision for our lives, like if you could have anything that you want right now, like what would you want? And I bet you a lot of people would have to do some soul searching to answer that question.
Yes, you're right. And I love that writing a check every day. I've done the one where you write a big check to yourself, like for the next 30 days, like this is how much money I want to come in. And then you write the check to yourself. I've done that one, but I like the day-to-day thing. And I like because that's the step-by-step process, right? Because sometimes it's hard for us to go from here to 0 to 100. And so that was genius what she did because you're stepping into it little by little by little, and you're opening up little by little by little, and then it doesn't feel so overwhelming, and it doesn't feel so I can't remember the word like out of grasp for us, right? And then sometimes we think that it's other people, like, oh, she can do it because she's her, or he can do it because he's that, and we other it, and we have everything inside of us to do whatever we want. And it's really fun to play with that and to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just read a book recently. I can't remember the name of it now. Um, The Science of Scaling. And he talks about setting a goal. So let's say you want to this is magical and I did it and it changed the whole entire game for me. I just did this a couple months ago. He talks about setting a goal and then a time frame for the goal and then cutting the time in half or in a quarter, right? So let's say you want to lose 50 pounds in a year. And then he says, when you set that goal, like say, I'll just use fitness because that's one that, a lot of people work with. So let's say you want to lose 50 pounds in a year, write down what you're going to do to lose the 50 pounds in a year. And he said, you kind of like, oh, I'll run every day. I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. And he said, now cut it in half, 6 months. And then he says, now your brain goes somewhere completely different. It kind of filters out the I'll just do. And it's like, oh, well, if I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 6 months, I'm going to have to run 5 miles a day or whatever it is, whatever's coming into your head, right? And he goes, chop it in half again, 3 months. And then he says, now where does your brain work? Or where does your brain go? And it filters out all of the junk and it gets right to the heart of what you have to actually do to make it happen. And so I did that. And what that did, it shifted me from head to toe for every cell in my being. It shifted everything to like, first of all, like, could this actually even happen? And then when you start like running numbers and doing this stuff, you're like, it actually could. Like, could I cut it in half again? And I went through the process and it completely shifts your energy, it shifts your thinking, and it changes you into a very efficient, purposeful action taker. It was fascinating.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that experience.
Yeah.
And it's really is about that action piece, right? Because we could read all the books in the world or learn all the courses, but it's then about taking the stuff that we're learning and implementing them. And it just reminds me of a quote. I think Tony Robbins, I heard it from him. It's like a lot of us, we know what to do, but we don't exactly always do what we know, right?
Yes.
So what
Yes.
was the name of that book again?
The Science of Scaling. I believe that's the name of it.
The Science of Scaling.
Or
Very interesting.
the gap and the gain, or Science of Scaling. It was one of those two. Yeah, it's so good. And you're right. And so when I work with my clients too, and I do this for myself, is all about action. Like, okay, we just did all this work and now what does your 30-day plan? What does your 60-day plan? What does your 90-day plan look like? So they have, their future goals, of course, but we really look at the now, like what's going to happen now to
And,
create new strategies and habits.
and can we dive into like the accountability piece of that too? Like how do you hold them accountable for following through with these action plans?
Well, everybody's different, so it depends how long somebody's working with me. But we have check-ins, right? So we're all adults, and so we don't. I'm not here to hold anybody's hand, and they don't want their hand held either because they want to integrate everything as deeply as they possibly can. And so, but we have check-ins, and we make very clear, simple goals that they actually can implement. And so we don't go from, like I said before, like 0 to 100. We take like, what are the steps? What's a small step you can take tomorrow that is going to lead you in this direction, right? And then we start small and then shift as needed. Once that one is implemented and it's strong and it's unconscious, now we'll implement a new one and we'll keep going, and layer, 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 layer.
Yeah, I really love that. And you're tackling it a step at a time, like you said. And it's
Yeah.
not about looking at that final destination or that final goal, because that could be scary. That could be a huge shift, a huge transition, a huge identity change. And so if you're just thinking about it as a journey and a gradual journey at that, then it could be a lot less intimidating.
Yeah. It feels a lot more doable too.
I have one more question and then I'm going to get Nathaniel to pop back on. So
Yeah.
if you could imprint one new belief or code in humanity's collective field, what would it be, Tina?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. You have everything in you. You already have everything in you, and it just comes back to remembering, and it comes back to wholeness, to bring all the parts of yourself back to the whole.
That's really good. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think that's everything, right? I mean, to be whole and real, I think it is a remembrance. It isn't.
Remember, yeah.
It's not about, adding things. And I think that's what Yeshua meant when he said, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then all things will be added." It's like seek first that state of wholeness, that state of unconditional love, because that's really who we are, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we can't say who we are in language, but at the root of it, I think we all kind of understand that our basic nature is that, unless we were so pinched off from it that we just totally forget, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's one thing we all have in common too, is like this awakening journey is about really remembering who we are at its core. And there's a forgetting process when we come here in these physical realms and these
Yeah.
physical bodies, but remembering and awakening to who we truly are, it's actually a very exciting journey that we're on. And
Mhm.
even more exciting, the fact that we're doing it together and like remembering coming together, like with our soul families and as a species and doing this collective work as a team. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I love the quote, teamwork makes the dream work, and
Yeah, I
that,
like that too.
yeah, like what you're saying is like we all have these beautiful gifts that are meant to be synergized and are meant to add quality of life and expression to the wholeness. And one of the things that I've loved most about doing this podcast and talking with wonderful folks like yourself is really having that time to really reflect those beautiful miracles that we are, and to it's interesting. I think this is a good opportunity to say this because our daughter, we always said, like, if we're gonna do real business, like build something of value. Luciana, can you please stop that? We need to include our family. I think
Yeah.
so. We're coming out of an age where this whole idea of like compartmentalizing yourself, like wearing a mask in the workplace, and then being a totally, and not having that interconnection of our community and our family with what we're doing. So
Yeah.
like one of our dreams is to actually take this podcast on the road and to have a retrofitted either a school bus or a bus that we actually do live podcasts and travel, whether it's just on Turtle Island or beyond, and because we really want to connect in those deeper ways that you're talking about, in guiding people back to their wholeness. Okay, then once we're there, it's like, well, what do we co-create from here? Because then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now we're in the flow of abundance. Now we're in our gifts. Like, what can we do that's going to make this journey really fun? Because we all want to
Yeah.
have fun, right? I think it needs to have
Yes.
fun. So
Yeah.
what is your favorite way of having fun now that you're more connected to who you really are and like, yeah, what lights you up and what are you passionate about in your future vision,
Oh my
Tina?
gosh, this is such a, you're gonna laugh. So first of all, I just want to say I love how you guys are just rolling with like your daughter's there and you're just rolling like you're the teamwork is I love it. You guys like you're picking up where she left. I love it. It's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Thank
it's so
you.
beautiful to see that. You guys are showing everybody the way with that for sure.
We're
I love it.
trying.
It's
We're not
so
perfect.
beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So what lights me up right now? Oh my goodness. So I have done so much traveling in my life and so I had my big vision just dropped in May timeframe, some or May,
Beautiful.
June. And so what lights me up right now is working. It really does like connecting with beautiful people like you guys and just putting myself focusing on this work so I can build this beautiful thing that this vision that I have is that's really what lights me up right now. And of course, I get together with my friends and I go hiking and nature lights me up. Of course, I play, I give myself time to play for
Wonderful.
sure. But right now I'm just so focused on building this
Yeah.
thing and it
Yeah.
feels really good.
So that's amazing. We're really on a similar page in that note. I'll circle back to what I was starting to talk about because the entrepreneurial path can be very isolating and very lonely at times, especially when you don't know what you don't know. And for
Yeah.
me, I really went into the unknown because I spent so much of my journey, especially when some of my awakening happened. I'm like, it's all to do with spirituality. Like I have to go deep into this. And then there's a lot of chatter out there around that too. Like, when The Secret came out, it's like, just think and grow rich and all this stuff. But it really like the entrepreneurial world is really about action and it has a whole different lens. And then I found the middle part is really like having divine consciousness, however you want to call it, as my true like partner in that, and that's reflected in all my relationships and my other partnerships, and then doing business from that place. But then how to like do it in a way that is effective as well as a journey, right? And so just recently, because we were doing our own website building, and then there's all the technical stuff, and Julia is much more technical than I am. I'm much more like inspired ideas,
Mm,
vision, art. Like I do art spontaneous, I speak spontaneous. I don't. Anyways, you understand as the
yeah.
manifesting generator.
Yeah.
And then recently, like I always kind of had this disdain of being online, especially in social media platforms.
Oh,
I just
same.
I just couldn't stand it, and I find it with if I would get into one, like whether it was like scrolling on when I first went on TikTok, I like first few times I'm like I'm on here for hours. There's so much interesting stuff because I'm interested in everything, and I'm like, what happened? And I was like super drained, and I noticed that on other platforms too, like just a lack of connection. But recently we started building our community synchronistically. I was guided to this platform called School with a K,
Mm,
Skool,
yep.
and
Yep.
I have found. Are you on there, Tina?
I haven't created my own community yet,
Okay.
but I am in some communities and
Amazing.
it's really wonderful.
Yes. No
Yeah,
ads, total engagement.
I
Well, I'll
love it.
send you a link to our community.
Okay.
We're just relaunching it actually, so it's going to be an interesting time. And I, if you're interested in joining, I'd love to have you in our
Yeah.
space. And I can't say enough good things as a community builder as well on School. Like I just feel like it's like this concept. I feel like true community is all about when the waters rise, all the boats rise, that
Yeah.
concept. And I really feel like, there's an emergent consciousness in that platform, but I think it's reflective of what we're all feeling must happen for us to really awaken to the next era where we're returned to being in harmony with the land and one another. Like we all have to win. You can't just have like a few players at the top and
Correct.
the rest of
No,
us are all, like struggling with crumbs. Like it's
no,
never going to
we're
work that way.
all going, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's great. So I mean, I I kind of see myself as an unofficial ambassador because I really feel like when I plugged in here, I was like, this is the first time I go onto a platform and I feel uplifted after. I could even be, I'm building for hours, building relationships, communicating, and I'm like, I feel good. I feel like people are authentically replying to me, and I'm like, why has this not been the whole time? So, anyways,
I,
that's my
but for a
plug-in.
reason, right?
Yeah,
So, but
exactly.
yeah, I feel like the energy on there is very clean.
Yeah.
Is very clean and uplifting. Like you said, people are going somewhere, people are doing something. There's some movement with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you can feel that, and it feels really good.
Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
totally does. Well, I'm grateful that you're on there already, Tina, and I look forward to having some conversations. I'd love to know more about the communities you're involved with, and yeah, I think it's an exciting time to be alive. There's so many reasons. There's still a lot of fear out there, around
Yeah.
like all the technologies that are coming, which I think could really bless humanity if we raise our maturity to meet them. What I know,
Yes.
Julia asked you your message, your programming, your imprint in the world. I like to ask a similar question, but what would you say to listeners who are maybe they don't know what to do, because I know some people who are listening to shows like this, they're just looking for their answers everywhere, and they're just
Mhm.
listening, learning, and it can feel like a fire hose, and then without that decision or that leap into something, it can be a challenge. So what would you say to someone who maybe is doesn't know exactly what to do or is in analysis paralysis? Like, how would you encourage that person listening?
That's a really good question too, because there's so much information out there with which is both a blessing and also can really be distracting. And so yeah, you're right. People can just keep consuming, and then not really do anything with it and not take any time for integration, right? And so first of all, spend time with yourself in quietness. It doesn't need to be meditation. Not everyone is meditation or prayer doesn't align with everybody. And so,
Yeah.
but still, you can sit in your living room in stillness for 10 minutes. We all have time for that. I will.
Yeah.
If anybody tells me they don't have 10 minutes in the day, show me your screen time.
Yeah,
Because
exactly, exactly.
I guarantee you have 10 minutes in your day to sit in the stillness, go for a walk, put your feet in the grass,
Mhm.
get back
Mhm.
into nature, go for a hike, get out
Yeah,
of the city for a minute. You don't
yeah,
need to spend a lot of money or go for hours and hours and hours. Just go for a drive.
yeah.
Just like spend time with yourself and get to know yourself. And then from that space, I do believe that a book or a podcast or something, somebody crosses your path or they say the word, it's very synchronistic, right? And so listen, follow the
Hmm.
breadcrumbs with um with a grounded awareness. And you don't need to know where you're going. And this is interesting you asked this because I was just on another call before this one and we talked about the liminal space. This woman is in a liminal space and I loved my liminal space before I got this big vision and this like, okay, go, it's time to go, right? I
Hmm.
was kind of in this liminal space after my divorce and moving out of state and all of these things, switching business around and all that. And if the liminal space is lovely, if you
Hmm.
allow it to be. And a lot of people get in that space and they just like, I need to know right now what to do. And this feels uncomfortable. And she knows where she's going and why don't I? And there you can get in this comparison and this. But if you really like allow yourself to love the liminal space,
Hmm.
and then in that space, use your time wisely to work on self-mastery.
Hmm.
Work on bringing the parts of you back into your wholeness. Work on bringing yourself home to yourself.
Hmm.
Work on loving yourself and showing up authentically and learn what that is for you.
Hmm.
Really like utilize that space in a very loving way. And then all of a sudden, one day you're going to get this big download and
Yeah,
God's going to say, it's time to go.
yeah.
And then there's no turning back. So that's what I would say. And just
That,
step by step and a little bit of action each day will get you, it will keep you on course.
that's a really beautiful message, and I love how you articulate things and really you have a gift of painting the journey in a way that is very meeting people where they are and like giving it clarity. I think that's so
Mhm.
important because it can be very easy to get lost in the distractions of the world, and to not allow those natural creation cycles. I mean, after a dissolution of something like life-changing, we do go through that liminal space as you're talking about, that void before creation happens again. And sometimes in this, indoctrinated world of pushing and, always achievement, to succeed and then get the result that
And then
allows you to be
enjoy.
happy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When we know, like, I mean, there's so many ways of saying this, but it's be, do, have. It's not have, do,
Yeah,
be. We're
exactly.
aware, but it is an art to living that way.
It is.
It's not always, um, it's simple, but it's not easy, and you have a
Exactly.
really beautiful way of painting it. And I appreciate who you are as a practitioner, because I can see,
Mm,
someone entering in your space. You have that groundedness and that clarity of painting things, not simplistically, but in a way that is um, is clear and relatable. Like, I feel that from you. I mean, I'm not, I don't
mhm.
know if I'm
Thank you.
articulating that well, but I think
Yeah,
it's
thank
from
you.
your curiosity. I see that you've really kind of mapped out the playground, so to speak, and you can help someone get to the place that they're looking for. So that's
Yeah,
amazing. That's amazing.
thank
So
you.
how can our viewers find you, Tina? And yeah, where are your favorite spaces to connect with people?
Yeah, so my website is thesovereignsoul.co, and you can run a free human design chart on there if
Wonderful.
you want. Yeah, people they can go there and look at their human design, and then also if you scroll down on that page, you can do a partnership chart, which you guys should do.
Okay,
You can
wonderful.
put in your information, your partner's information. It will show each
Oh,
individually and then overlaid. It's really
that's
cool. It's
very
super
cool.
fun. That's really fun to play with. So, and that's for free. You can go there and check that out. And then I have master classes, usually monthly, every other month.
Okay.
So if you want to join, they can join my newsletter and I'll send information out on that. And then I was like you in denial or this whole social media like and dislike situation. And now
Yep.
I'm starting to post more on social media. And
Okay.
so you can find me on Instagram. I am Tina LeAnn
Okay.
on Instagram.
And of course, we'll share all of those contact informations in. Julia might have already actually done that in our description in the videos as well.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's wonderful, Tina. Listen, it's such a pleasure meeting you. Look forward to
You too.
continuing uh, to uh, to witness you grow and to get you to know you more as well. You're certainly welcome back anytime. If you ever have something you'd like to share, a project you're doing or a new initiative, we'd love to have you back. And yeah, and maybe Luciana will be the one interviewing you that
Yeah,
time.
that would be so fun.
Is there any,
Yeah.
yeah, is there anything else you'd like to share before we wish everyone a wonderful day and yeah.
No, I think we covered so much. And
Okay.
yeah, just like follow your own inner guidance. That's what
Mm,
I would say is follow your own inner guidance. You already know. We already know.
mm.
We just need to say yes to it.
Yeah, so important. Thank you. I mean, that's such
Yeah.
a refreshing thing to hear. It's an easy statement to kind of pass by and say, "Oh yeah, I know that." But when you really consider, I think in this day and age in particular, there's so many voices trying to say like, "This is the way." And just
Too
because
many.
someone has done it their way and has worked for them doesn't mean it's necessarily the way that's right for you, right? Or for
Correct.
me. And I think that that's really important, that speaking that this is one thing. I forgot to say this, but as you were talking about meditation, you really painted this beautiful picture. Like, to me, the simplicity of meditation, if I could summarize in one word, it is just listening. So you can
Yeah,
listen when
that's
you're on
it.
a walk. You can, like you
Yep.
said, just sitting in your living room and
Biking, go
being
for a bike
yourself.
ride, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's all
Yeah.
kinds of ways, and I do love sitting in stillness and really going to the subtle listening, but it's just listening. It's not
Hmm.
anything complicated. So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful, Tina. Yeah, that inner guidance going within. I'm gonna welcome that guidance myself, and really sit with that and really listen. And you've reminded me of a lot of the important things of knowing the aspects of ourselves that are our strengths and our character expressions,
Mhm.
as we learn to put those puzzle pieces back together and to
Yeah.
synergize. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
you're one wonderful synthesizer. You've taken a lot of these pieces together, and really, I see that you've found this gift. So thank you for shining your light in our world. And
Thank you.
yeah, we wish you all the best. And for our listeners, also blessings to all of you and your families. And we look forward to welcoming you back. I'm just going to play our closing video. Of course, it is our wonderful daughter, Luciana, who is the little star here. So I'm just going to bring this up. Okay, I'm going to mute myself here. Thanks for watching. You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.